My whole gig is no half cakes, which comes from me standing in front of half of a birthday cake on my son's birthday and saying, hey, that sucks. Let's not do that ever again. And so I made it my personal creed to never accept half a cake in anything of my life.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Jenny Townsend, your host. This podcast is for doers, dreamers, and those trying to decide what's next. I, along with amazing guests, will be sharing stories of success, failure, and what's to come. Thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Jenny Townsend, your host. Today, you're going to want to turn it up and tune in. I have Jim, and I was reading his bio before we started our conversation and everything, and I'm really excited about our conversation. We're going to be talking about yourself. We're going to be talking about our spouses. We're going to be talking about friends and family as well. Jim has a lot of expertise and a lot of tips for us to enhance the relationships that we have in our life. And if this is the first time you're joining us, the podcast is all about personal and professional development. So we're going to be sharing things that you may be able to incorporate in the workplace as well when it comes to working with team members. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jim before he introduces himself. He is the host of the No Half Cakes podcast and the founder of No Half Cakes, a digital marketing agency built on one simple idea. Real success shouldn't cost you your soul, your health, or your family. A serial entrepreneur, author, and father of two, Jim has built and scaled multiple 7-8-figure businesses. But it wasn't until he stood in front of a half of a birthday cake. Now it makes sense to me. He missed his son's birthday to chase success. That's when everything changed for him. He's now on a mission to help high achievers calm the chaos, reconnect with what really matters, and start building lives that feel as good on the inside as they look on the outside. Jim, thank you so much for joining me. I love that bio, by the way.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
So, Jim, I have shared with our listeners a little bit about your bio, but I would really like for you to tell them where you live, what season of life you're in, and what we can expect to learn from you today.
Sure. So I live in New York. Currently, I've been here my entire life. The season of life I'm in right now is sowing. If I had to put a term to it, this whole no half cakes thing happened about 6 years ago for me. Literally was October 29th, 2019. So pretty much we just passed the 6-year anniversary of that. And I've spent a lot of time really investing in figuring out, hey, how do I move past that in a way that's going to actually be beneficial, not just for myself, but like, how do I turn that mess into a message for other people to avoid falling into those same pitfalls? And but right now, you mentioned I am an author. I literally just finished this morning writing my third book. So I'm really enjoying the process of kind of investing into other people. That's where I am right now.
That's amazing. I love that. And 3 books. I've only have one out, and that was a labor of love and a lot of time as well. So, do you mind telling us what the topics or the titles of all 3 books that you have, and are they available on Amazon?
Sure. So the first one, I almost don't really count, to be honest with you. And it's called The Handbook to Your 8-Figure Business. And I honestly, if I'm being totally honest, botched the title of that. I forgot the actual full title, something along those lines. The first book I wrote, it was more of a, hey, let's generate some business rather than, hey, how do I genuinely help people? So I wrote that one about 5 years ago. Not my favorite. Let's just be blunt and honest with you. That was in a season of, hey, how do we write a book for credibility? The second one, which is what I would consider the first real book I wrote, is called Show Up More. That book is meant to help someone kind of go from the feeling of not showing up in their own lives to, hey, how do I actually get the freedom and the joy that I desire in a 28-day span? So it's literally day by day. So each day is a chapter. And it's meant to kind of help walk you through the process of showing up more for yourself in your own life, that sort of thing. It's meant to be super approachable, very low friction, low pressure that you can kind of just walk through on your own to kind of, again, get into that freedom feeling. The third book is called Show Up More Spiritually. So basically what I'm doing now is going into each of the 6 slices of life, if you will. And I'm sure we'll talk about that with a little bit more in-depth content, right? So my whole gig is no half cakes, which comes from me standing in front of half of a birthday cake on my son's birthday and saying, hey, that sucks. Let's not do that ever again. And so I made it my personal creed to never accept half a cake in anything of my life. If we want to kind of dive into that story briefly, and this will kind of tie in together, I used to be the type of person that would hustle and grind as my personality. It was workaholism. I've been an entrepreneur literally since the age of 8. I started my first business during the summer times when I was home from school, cutting grass around the neighborhood, which sounds like, all right, cool, good job. But it was literally a couple $100 a week at 8 years old in the early 90s. I was a king. I could literally do whatever the heck I wanted to. Obviously, I had no bills. I went on a streak after that, building a whole bunch of different random businesses that were really money-making ventures. I used to walk people back to my house during high school when like Nextel phones were a brand new thing, and I used to charge them $20 to install the wallpaper on their phone. The amount of things I've done for money are obscene. Anyway,
Legal, right?
all legal. Yeah. So when I say that, in that phase of my life 6 years ago, I used to brag about the fact that I was the hardest worker in the room. So like I would go and post on Instagram and say, like I would take a video out at the front windshield at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning showing, hey, there's nobody else on the road when I'm driving to work. And I'd post it thinking like, hey, I'm outworking everybody else. How cool is that? And the irony of that is I still see like your Facebook memories to this day of, hey, this was you 6 years ago. This was you 7 years ago doing that sort of thing. And I look now and it's a totally different life. But all of that led to, again, that October 29th moment, 2019. I came home 8:45 at night, my son's 6th birthday, and I want to sing happy birthday to him. And my wife is exhausted because she's been home with the kids. She was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and she had the friends over after school, the whole nine. So I get home and I'm like, hey, let's sing happy birthday. Dad's home. Everyone should be excited because dad was hard at work and now dad's home. And everyone is rightfully exhausted. So my wife plops down this half-eaten birthday cake on the table. And in that moment, I felt every feeling you could possibly feel. I was pissed off at my wife for, hey, how dare you not wait for me? I was pissed off at myself. And just standing there feeling like, hey, am I actually successful? Like, I parked a nice car in the driveway, walked into a nice house, and this is what I have. And the rest of it kind of faded away. And obviously there's a lot of transition process that happened after that, right? And talking about kind of going through the frustration, the grief, and all of the feelings. But I say all that to say, working through all of that led me to understand that, hey, there's 6 core areas of your life that you need to maximize to really be joyous and happy and fulfilled and present. I identify those 6 areas as your spiritual life, your physical life, how you show up physically, because at that time I was like 200 pounds overweight, heavier than I am now. Your relationships, your emotional health, your professional career, and your finances. Right. So if you can figure out how to maximize all of those things where they work in harmony together, right, then you could live a life where you are present and actually enjoying it. So all that connects back to, hey, the first book in the series of going deeper in that is Showing Up More Spiritually. That was a long answer, but hopefully that made sense.
I love everything that you said, and I think there's so many of us that are tuning in right now that can relate to everything that you're saying. And, I used to be in that grind and I used to think it was so cool. And I was so like, I think it was a lot of my ego as well. And I had something to prove to people that I was working so hard. And I mean, I was brought up that way as well. And to be on the other side where there is balance, there is boundaries, there is time with family. And two, I had a lot of people, a lot of family members mad at me as well. And I was like, I don't understand why you're mad at me. Like, I'm just working. I'm just trying to build, build, build. And it was like I was so focused on myself and I didn't realize how self-centered I was. And I wasn't actually open to understanding that, no, these people want me to be around because they care for me. They love for me. They like my presence and all that stuff. So I can totally relate to where you were and where you are today, because I'm kind of in that same space as well, where I'm making myself a priority with my family and with the people that I come home to, not the work, not the money, where for so many years that was the focus, because I thought that was success. And I think that's what a lot of things that we were taught is have the nice car, have the nice house, have the big job, own the company, and do all these, when actually success is having control of your schedule and having control of your life and being able to do what you want to do on a daily basis.
Yeah. So my definition of success, right, and this is a thing I struggled with for a long time, because I think success means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And for most people, they hinge it on the social media definition, which is like, hey, how many likes and shares and comments can you get on this cool highlight reel version of your life you post, right? The nice car, the fancy vacation, whatever it is that you want to share, because it validates that feeling inside of you. For me, my definition of success became the ability to bring joy into difficult situations. And to me, the reason why I love that definition personally is it's internal. It's not defined by anybody else. It's not defined by how much you like my car. If you think I have enough money in the bank, it's not defined by anything outside of my own ability to bring joy into an otherwise stressful situation. Is it difficult at work? Is it difficult to pay the bills? Is it life being life? Because life is going to happen. But if you are able to bring joy into that, you're able to be present, to me, that's success.
100%. I love that. Oh, I just love our conversation already. So I would love to kind of dive into the yourself thing as well, which I love that book, Show Up More. I'm gonna buy that for my team members because I feel like I own a music school. I'm actually in my 10th year as well, and I have an amazing team. And I've got a couple team members right now where, they're in their 30s trying to figure things out, some of them in their 40s, and they do so much for all of our students, and they do so much for the company. And this is probably hard for a lot of owners and business owners to wrap their head around, but I'm telling them they need to do more for themselves, where I'm like, "Okay, don't come into work this early. Go and take your walk. Go and play tennis. Go play golf. Go do you before you come into work." Because I really want really happy, energetic people to come to work because I feel like they're gonna be able to serve not only themselves more, but the clients and enhance that experience. But some of them just wake up and it's like this immediate thing just to go into Slack and check email and get to the office. So I'm assuming your book tells them a little bit about creating those boundaries and doing more for themselves, the Show Up More book?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna get that for some of my team members.
So the reason why, and I'm not sure if I'm segueing this properly, but I'm going to give it a stab. The reason why I say pouring into yourself is the most important relationship you're going to have is because a lot of times when I see somebody like that, right, it's our urge as a leader to be like, hey, I want you to go do this. But for them, it's almost impossible for them to do that because it's become second nature. For them, what they've done is they've put service of others ahead of themselves because that's where they see other people valuing them. They don't see value in who they are. Right? They have a difficult time understanding that, hey, remove all of your service from anybody else. Even if you just show up and just exist, you are of value. You have a purpose. There's a reason why you're here, and it's a good freaking thing. And they have problems seeing that. So for me, when you're able to kind of have that relationship with yourself and understand, hey, yes, there is a purpose for you. All the junk that you went through was for a reason, and it will be used for good eventually. Even if you have a hard time seeing that right now, you have to have a little bit of faith and understand that all things will make sense in time. So to me, again, I think it's easy for a leader to be like, hey, yeah, show up a little bit later to work. Take some time for yourself. But if that person isn't able to have that conversation with themselves, whatever you're saying is almost going to turn you into a villain. They're going to be like, this person doesn't understand me. I want to show up and work hard because that's where I see myself being valued. Right. And that's why for me, I think for people to be able to have the conversation with themselves is the most important one. And the only way that I see us being able to allow that conversation to happen is to shut the heck up and sit alongside of them and allow them that space. Allow them the space to just experiment and feel seen, heard, appreciated, and loved. Right? Because to me, those are the four things that people really, really, really desperately crave. And if you want to really meta this entire thing, the only way that I can show up and allow somebody else to feel loved, appreciated, seen, and heard is if I do it for myself first. If I'm not seeking that from them. So for me, if I pour into my own cup first, if I allow myself to feel loved, appreciated, seen, and heard, I can show up for other people.
Okay, so I want to go like two different ways with that whole thing.
Let's
So
do it.
I want number one for you to talk to me as a leader, and we have a lot of other leaders. And then I want you to talk to the person, the employee as well. I need you to talk to both of us right now. Because
Okay.
as I just said, I'm trying to encourage this, right? Them to have the boundaries because I have boundaries now. It took me a really long time. It took me a lot of breaking habits, create new habits. It took a lot of mindset shifts. It took me putting my phone down and creating like this block schedule where it's like No, you're not going to get up and go rush to work. You're going to go and go for a walk, or you're going to go here. So for me as a leader, I would love to know, how can I maybe change the approach, change the conversation, or change how I encourage them to go and select themselves first. And then we'll get on the themselves topic.
Okay. So my answer is going to suck because for a lot of leaders, they want to be the person in control that can just go do something. And my answer is going to be, you can't do that for them. So in my perspective, the way that a leader is able to foster that kind of relationship is by doing it for themselves, by showing up for themselves, by humbling themselves and allowing the people on their team to see their weaknesses, see what their pitfalls are, right? Because a lot of times as a leader, you think, hey, you're supposed to be the strong one and you're supposed to never show fear and never show doubt and never show all of these things. But the problem with that is the people on your team see them anyway, right? Even though we think we're doing a good job of hiding that crap, we're not. Okay, so the people around you can see through the garbage, and when they see you lying to them, it breaks all trust that you have. So if you just own up to the fact that, hey, I am human and I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. Okay, cool. It gives them permission to do the same, right? And what happens is when you as a leader show up and handle your business after that, they say, oh, cool. They were able to struggle and keep moving forward and do this, and this is how they did it. Now that person on your team has an example of followable excellence. And that's what a lot of people are looking for. They're looking for, hey, how do I do this? I don't have anyone in my circle who shows me how to live this way. I see a lot of people jibber jabbering on the internet, but I don't see people living it out. Right. And so for us as a leader, if we want to show up for ourselves and handle our own business, yeah, it's difficult because we can't just go tell someone how to do that. We have to live it out. And a lot of times it takes months or years of us actually showing the fruit of our work for people to understand and buy into the fact that, all right, yeah, maybe they weren't crazy this whole time. Maybe they actually knew what they were talking about and they were onto something. So it's a very difficult kind of thing to accomplish. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense, like putting your heart on your sleeve and just letting them know the struggles and things like that. We have a Slack channel and it's called Fuel. And it's where all of us can post different books, or if we're having a hard day, or like podcasts we're listening to based on like the emotions we're going through. Like giving gratitude sometimes gets dropped in the Slack, or, just, hey, I'm finally getting my protein in today, or hey, this walk that I've been talking about doing, I'm finally doing, and this has been the benefit, or just I had some team members on the podcast and just talking about the benefits of drinking water. I mean, some of this stuff is so simple, but they're just on this hamster wheel, coming and serving others, and they're forgetting to serve themselves. That fuel channel kind of reminds them to do that. But yeah, I definitely had a team member in the past say, we just want to see your weaknesses. And I was like, I feel like I share them, but maybe I'm not sharing them in a way that they can see as well. And like, even with this whole podcast in my book, like very vulnerable, like for me to like put that out there, what happened in my marriage when nobody at my company knew what was happening. So, but that was like obviously a long time ago. So be more vulnerable and open. So I love that. Thank you for sharing, because I always want to improve how I am as a leader. Okay, so let's get talking about themselves. Like how the listeners today, how employees of businesses, how can they show up more for themselves? What can they begin doing? Mindset shifts. Let's just go right in that. I know it's going to be really heavy, and that's probably going to be the bulk of this time together. And then we'll get to spouse and friends and family. But let's dive right into us as the humans, and us taking ownership of our time and our schedule and our joy.
All right, let's do it. So I think the best place to start with that is the understanding that you are exactly where you are meant to be, right? Just leave it as simple as that right now. Just understand that, hey, everything that you are experiencing in your life will be used for good at some point. Okay. And if it hasn't been used for good yet, the key is yet. You got to keep just going. And it's this underlying faith component. And that's why I wrote that next book next, because I think the faith component has to be first. It allows you the ability to move forward in the understanding that things will work out at some point, right? So for a lot of people, what winds up happening is they don't have that leader in their lives, that person who allows them to feel loved, appreciated, seen, and heard. So we bottle this crap up and we just walk through our lives. We just accomplish our to-do list. We seek that fulfillment from places like doom scrolling on our phone till the phone smashes on our face when we have fall asleep with it, right? Everyone's been there. Or we have these other relationships where people are stroking your ego or whatever it might be. And I think that's what winds up happening is we don't have that appreciation feeling coming in. And a lot of times we block it because we are afraid of being hurt. So to me, what I think needs to happen is you need to get around somebody who is going to love and appreciate you for who you are, but not let you stay there. And that's a really difficult person to a lot of the times, right? Because in a lot of cases, the people that you spend the most time with, your circle of genius, ain't that genius. And I think a lot of times we do that on purpose because it allows us to feel like, cool, well, all the people I'm hanging out with are also in this mess. So I'm just one of them. I'm also fine being a mess. And yeah, while it might seem comfortable, ultimately what ends up happening is you stay there. So I'm sure you've heard the example of like, hey, you're the summation of the 5 people you spend most time with, that whole gig. Honestly, it's true. So if you want to be in a better place, start putting yourself around better people. And yes, it's going to be a little uncomfortable, but the reward on the other side of that is 1,000 times worth whatever pain you're going to endure and whatever discomfort and awkward conversations you're going to have now. The freedom that you feel on the other side of that is 1,000 times better. Right. And I'm sure you can attest to that. Like, yes, I'm sure you had a lot of freaking really uncomfortable conversations that you would rather not have. But on the other side of that, now you get to appreciate the freedom and joy and all the awesome stuff that comes from having gone through that. So all of that to say, it takes getting around someone who's going to love and appreciate you and not judge you and criticize you to allow you a space to take that mask off and say, hey, I'm human too. It's cool. I get that you messed up. All right, cool. We can work through it. Whatever the mess is, you're redeemable and you're able to move forward in a way that's going to actually benefit you in the long run. So if you don't have that person, by all means, use me. Okay. I am willing to offer myself to you as someone you can vent to, keep it between us. Okay. Go find someone in your community, whatever the case may be. But step number 1 for me is to get around someone who's going to allow you to take the mask off. Because once you can see yourself for who you actually are, then you can move.
I want to encourage you to get my book, The Stroke It Guide, available on Amazon and my website. The book is what you need to know from the boardroom to the bedroom. It talks about how to stroke yourself, your spouse, your partner, your friends, your family, most importantly, your employer, employees, and of course, there's a chapter just for the bedroom. Go to Amazon today and get my book, The Stroke It Guide. So I love that you're saying that. I'm thinking like the personal examples I have and the professional examples that I have. So I wanted to be able to scale my company. I wanted to be around people that had more wisdom, more experience. And so I joined what we call the CEO Forum. So just movers and shakers, people have been doing it forever. And I'm like the little person, like barely in based on the threshold to get in there. But I've learned so much and I feel like I want to be them. So putting myself in those rooms, I think professionally is so key. And finding mentors that have done what you want to do as well. And when my husband and I were going through a rough patch, I didn't know who I was. I just was the person that worked all the time. So I kind of outlined my feelings and I wanted to change those feelings. I wanted to change those mindsets. So I started going to yoga classes and I was so intimidated by yoga, but I was like, I want to be able to do it. So I did that. And then I was like, I really just want to be happy. So I tried to find places where happy people were hanging out. And most times people were hanging out like at dance places, dance classes. I went to a couple different events. I went to this one really, really uncomfortable dance class where you had to dance with another woman and you had to tell her she was beautiful and like all these things. So, so uncomfortable. But that really helped me find who I was. And I was able to heal through that process and kind of connect with those people. And it was just so beneficial, but it was super, super uncomfortable at the same time.
I love that. I think, when you say that, one of the things it makes me think of is I actually literally saw a cartoon yesterday that said the premise was, why do so many people have a hard time finding happiness? And the answer was because so many people look for happiness in the future rather than the present. Or we look for happiness in this place that we can eventually get to. Right, we're going to arrive there. And I'm sure, as you know, it doesn't exist. Right, you arrive to that place, you reach your goal, and guess what? You move the goal line. It happens, especially with high achievers. You want to continue to grow and reach new things. And the stuff that you once thought was going to be the answer ultimately isn't. Right? The answer is being happy where you are. And I love the example you shared because I think a lot of times when you're doing a thing, whether it's dance or whether it's playing baseball or whatever it is, you are consumed in that activity. You're not worried about your bills or what's going to happen tomorrow. You're just doing a thing. And that's why people are happy, because they are present. And I think the beautiful part about this is once you go through that whole process and understand it, you can experience that same level of happiness being present on a Thursday morning, having a podcast conversation, right? You can do it literally folding laundry. If you're appreciating the fact that you have clothes in your house, you can be present anywhere you want, but it's going to take a little bit of work to get that mindset instilled in.
Right, and switching, I have to, I get to, and
Yes.
as well. And I mean, I feel like finding a hobby. There's so many things that were like, oh, when I get to this age, or when I become this level of success, or when I'm gonna do that in the future. And I'm like, why not just do it now? Like I found tennis, and tennis has been absolutely amazing for me. It's outdoors, it's social, I get some sun, I get some exercise. And I mean, sometimes I'm playing with 80-year-olds and sometimes I'm playing with 40-year-olds. And there's just so much that I get out of it, but like you said, you're not thinking about the bills, you're not thinking about the stress, you're being present, you're focusing on your mental health, and you're releasing a lot of emotions that you're maybe not aware of it, or like when you're hitting that ball as well. So I definitely think that was probably one of the highlights of me going through this like discovery phase when I was trying to discover who I was what is it that I want to do? What is it that makes me happy? What foods do I like? What can I incorporate in my life on a daily basis that I'm not because I'm so busy serving everybody else or so worried about this or stressed about this as well. So I like that you're bringing that into like being present.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's super important.
So when you think about some of the stuff, maybe that show up more book, or even like the stuff that you're talking about in your new book, when it comes to us taking ownership of our time and our joy, is there anything in that book where you have like 5 tips or 5 mindset shifts or like 5 ways of doing things? Or like, I know you said earlier, just like shut the hell up and all that, but encourage us, inspire us, get us to take some action today for ourselves so that we can be accountable and we can be happy and we can move forward.
Yes, absolutely. So that book, the Show Up More book, is written in a very easy to consume way. As you can tell from our conversation, I'm not a preachy guy. I don't like to preach and talk down to anybody. I think all of us have our own struggles. And so for me, it's not saying, hey, I am the person who found the answer. It's not that. It's sharing, hey, what was my experience? What did I take away from it? How can you relate it to your life? And I think for us to be able to sit down and just look at the people around us and understand, hey, all of us are going through junk. Everyone you look at, no matter who, no matter how good of a person or bad of a person they are, they all have junk and also good stuff. Okay, so for us to be able to look at where are you in your life? What are the things that I can do literally right now? Just do that. Doesn't matter how big of a dream it is. It's literally taking the next step and just moving forward. And again, remembering that that next step does not have to be perfect. Okay, I am a huge advocate for consistency. If you can do literally one thing, you can just freaking show up. Okay? Just do it. Just show up consistently. You will not be denied if you continue showing up. Okay? And I've talked about this till I'm blue in the face. When I started my podcast, okay, that was a little over 2 years ago. My third video was called This Episode Is Gonna Suck. Okay, and I think it only has like 25 views on it. I started that with the understanding that, hey, episode 3, once I got past the initial momentum of I have a message to share, is understanding that people are probably not going to watch this. It's not going to be the best production quality. I'm not going to really be as confident talking into the mic. It's going to be not my best work. But guess what? Since then, I've done hundreds of other episodes, and I'm now up to 60,000 subscribers for people who are actually tuning in to actually watch that because I've showed up. Because I've consistently shown up every day and gotten 1% better. Gotten 0.001% better, or some days I got worse. But guess what? I kept showing. So it's encouragement for you in your life, no matter what you're talking about, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your physical fitness, whether it's your finances. If you just keep showing up, if you just keep making a deposit in the bank, whether it's a penny or $1 million, just put the work in today. Okay? That you can control. You maybe can't control all the other junk going on in your life, but you can control your ability to show up. And I want you to show up for yourself. Okay, that's why the book is called Show Up More. It's about showing up for yourself. It's not saying, hey, I want you to be, I don't even know. I can't think of a person who I would say should be your idol. A whole different conversation. But you could be the most famous person you know to yourself. Okay? Be proud of who you are. Your story is awesome. And if no one else wants to hear it, call me. I'll listen to the whole damn thing. Okay? Because you are worth it. You are worth showing up. So if you take nothing else from this conversation, I want you to show up for today. And I want you to really understand that you can continue just showing up. You can do literally anything you want.
So I love all that. I can't wait to send this podcast to people that I know. I'm going to drop this definitely in our team channels. But what I love that you said is about the consistency. That is so hard. I was just talking about that with somebody else, and my husband always jokes that I'm very consistent with inconsistency. Like there's like, except for my podcast, I've done this for 4 years, and every week we have an episode for 4 years. And there's certain things that I am consistent with, but that consistency is tough. And it's like we do it for a while, and then it's like for whatever reason we just quit or we stop. What is the reason for that?
Expectations. We judge ourselves really hard and hold ourselves to impossible standards. And I literally had a conversation about this yesterday with a podcast guest of mine who was 60 years old when she finally gave up drinking and reinvented her life and went on to do a whole bunch of awesome, crazy things. And we talked about the difference between someone who quits and just does a cold turkey and is done for that one time versus the person that has quit drinking or gambling or working or whatever the like life interrupting activity is, because ultimately they're all really the same. They're all affecting your ability to have a normal life. The person who continues to quit and come back to it and quit, come back to it might actually be better. And I'll tell you why, because they have more resolve to continue trying, to continue showing up for themselves, right? But somehow when we are that person, we think, man, I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as that other person because they were able to do it one time. First of all, you have no idea if they're actually still doing it behind the scenes, but they're just not sharing it on social media or telling anybody about it. But second of all, more importantly, your ability to, again, continue showing up today and making the effort in that direction is what matters. It doesn't matter if you like cross the finish line and say, hey, I quit. Woohoo. If you are putting out podcast episodes and you go on a streak where you put out a podcast episode every day for a month and then you stop for 2 months and then you come back and you do it once every other week. You still have a podcast? Yes. Is your consistency schedule as great as you wanted it to be? No. But is it more consistent than the person who said, hey, maybe one day I should share that podcast idea I have and took zero action? Yeah, you did some stuff. So again, it's encouragement to just go out and do stuff and not worry about the judgment, the criticism. Does it meet someone else's definition of what a podcast even is? When you have a podcast, does it have to be 45 minutes? Could it be 12? Can you define a podcast? What is a book? Does a book have to have 12 chapters and each chapter has to have 10 pages? No. You could write a book on whatever you want. You could just go do stuff. And like we make it so freaking complicated to accomplish the things that we want to do because we put all of these rules and expectations on ourselves. Just go do stuff. It's really that simple.
Jim, can you come to Sarasota? I feel like I'd love for you to be with our team and just with my friends as well. I just think what you're saying is so true. It's so spot on. It's so simple. And I do believe that if we were to just make these simple little steps or just these little moves or take these little actions, so much can change for ourselves and for the people that are in our lives as well. Um, when you talked about your 6 slices, I'm assuming that's like 6 slices of cake.
Yep.
So does that make sense to kind of break that down now, or should we go into the spouse section? What do you think?
I mean, we can do either one because to me, relationships is one of the slices. And obviously that's relationships with yourself. It's a relationship with your spouse and other relationships. So yeah, we could dive into it. I'm happy to.
Yeah, let's dive into that. I definitely want to reserve some time for the spouse section because I think it's a really, really important topic as well. But let's dive into the slices. I want to have some cake with you. Then I'll make sure to reserve some time for the spouse section.
Okay, so let's start here. The question that I usually ask in closing, and I'm going to throw it in there a little early because I think it's an important thing to consider now, is painting the picture of when I came home, right? 8:45 at night, I put my key in the front door, I walk into my house. The question that I now literally ask myself every time I cross the threshold of that door is how much of the cake are you coming home to? Okay. And sometimes it's a difficult question to answer. But I want you to think about that when you open the front door of your house and you walk in. How much of that cake are you coming home to? Are you coming home to a relationship where, like, yeah, you get home and you just wave to your spouse and just sit on the couch and just doom scroll and avoid each other or go hide in the bathroom or do whatever else? Or are you actively dating each other after 14, 15, 25 years of marriage? Right? Now, obviously, you're going to have some crappy days. Everyone's entitled to them, but like, do them together. Okay. How much of that cake are you coming home to? And I think for people to start asking themselves that question, guess what? Doesn't matter the answer. It's not a test. And you don't have to tell anyone your answer, but you. Like, you need to start looking at the things in your life. If you want a better life, you got to understand, where are you now? Okay. And the analogy I would make is, if you say, hey, I want to drive to Disney World, and you punch in Disney World in your GPS and you get in the car. But guess what? Your car doesn't know where you are now. No directions. Doesn't matter if you got directions from God himself, are going to get you there if you don't understand where you're at and your starting point. Right? So have that conversation with yourself to say, hey, where am I right now? And who cares what the answer is, right? Again, understand where you are, remove the mask, get around someone who's going to encourage you to be the best version of you and support you on the days that you don't feel like it. And then just keep moving in that direction. Literally as simple as it gets. But it starts with understanding who you are and where you are right now.
I love that. I love that. So the slices, so you have yourself, you have your spouse, and then you said you have financial. I want to know all
So
6 slices.
yeah, let's go through the 6. And I always forget one for some reason, so I count them like a kindergartner on my hands. Okay. So you have relationships.
Okay.
Okay. You have your spiritual health. You have your financial health. You have your emotional health, your professional health, and the last one. See, I do this literally every time. It's your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your relationship, your finances, and your career. Okay, I did it that fast. So those are the 6 areas. I think you can kind of dump all of the other junk into one of those 6 in your life. So for me, it's like, hey, how can you, again, harmonize all 6 of those in a way that's going to work? Because I am not a fan of the work-life balance thing. To me, balance, you are constantly running between 2 sides and you waste so much freaking energy trying to be 2 different people in one spot. It's just a bad idea. So for me, it's about, hey, how do you create a life where you can show up as the same version of you in all of the places, right? You don't have to wear 6 different hats. You get one hat and you wear that sucker everywhere you go, because you have the same set of core values in everything you do. You don't have to put on a different persona to be Jim at work, compared to Jim at home, compared to Jim with your daughter, compared to Jim with your son, right? It's just Jim. It's the same version of me everybody gets. And you can't do that unless you know who you are. And that's why, again, we started this whole thing with kind of understanding who you are, because I think once you do that, it allows you to show up more, if you will.
Yeah, I love that you're saying about the hats and like showing up as the same person, because I know that like when I'd be in work mode, it would be like this person, and like my husband be like, okay, well, you're not the boss when you get home, or you're not this when you're not home, and hey, it's just me here. You don't need to talk like you're talking to a whole bunch of different people as well. So, understanding that and becoming self-aware too of like how you're portrayed in this world and how you're portrayed in that world as well. And I think as you were talking about like the spiritual stuff and the energy, like we carry so much energy. And I remember my team members, well, actually, my husband said something about my energy and how my energy was really, really strong. So I went to work and I was like, oh my God, you would never believe what David said. He said something about my energy is so strong today. And they both looked at each other, gave each other a look, and then they looked at me and they're like, we can feel it too. We know what type of day it is based on that energy and how I was carrying myself as well. So I feel like that kind of goes into what you're saying about these slices and understanding who you are and showing up for yourself. And a lot of it comes, I think, with awareness too, because we have so much impact when we walk in a room. So like being that same person and not here and there definitely has been a game changer for me as well. And just being more authentic and being more authentic with work and the people I'm working with, and being that same person at home where I'm not trying to be all the things to all the people. And I think sometimes that's where we get caught up in, become so stressed and become so overwhelmed because we have to prove ourselves to or prove our worth to all these different people so they believe in us or we think we're successful, I think. I don't know.
I hear that. And, for me, it was a struggle for a long time. Like, when you're running a lot of businesses, and a lot of people are on your team and expect a lot of you, a lot of times you are the decision maker, right? People come to you with a problem and they expect you to just magically solve it. And a lot of times in that role, you want enough information that you can make a decision on, and then just to make a decision and for that person to lovingly go away. Okay, because you got a bunch of stuff you got to do. You need to be like, hey, tell me the thing that I need to know and nothing more. Here's your answer. Be gone. Again, in a loving way. But when you come home and your wife wants to have a 45-minute conversation with you about something that you could probably sum up in about 3 sentences, there's a desire to say, please just shut up and tell me the point, right? And for a long time, I was that way. But it's not about the point. She's not expecting you to come home and be the boss mode Jim and just answer the question. She wants to be heard. She doesn't just need you to solve her problems. And I think for a long time, I struggled with that, right? And that caused some problems. But ultimately, when I realized, hey, you can just listen to people and understand, maybe she doesn't want you to solve her problems. Maybe she just wants you to hear them, right? And again, this is about people being loved, appreciated, seen, and heard. But it's not about me. It's about the people in your life and the relationships you hold. And so when you can understand what is of value to that person, what are they looking for, and read between the lines, it makes your relationship stronger. And I want to give you an example of it. If you've ever been with kids at a pool, okay, and you see your kid say, hey, Dad, look at me do this jump, or look at me jump off this diving board. What are they actually asking you? They're not asking you to really watch them. They want to be seen. You know why? You know how I know that? What is the first thing that kid does when they pop above the water? You know what they do? They look at you. You know why? Because they want to see if you are looking at them.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I mean, we do want to be seen. Um, so two things that you were saying, and I had a comment, and then I was like, I lost it because I was just so in tune to what you were saying. But back to your wife, listening to your wife as well, and she's not looking for solutions. My husband had to start conversations with me when he would start telling me about something. He'd be like, I don't need the solutions advisor today. I need my wife to just listen. And I didn't realize how much I was just not really listening, just talk, 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 talk as well. And I think that was a game changer in our relationship. I need to still do a better job listening. Um, but I really wasn't listening to understand and to validate and to be present. It was more like I'm a D. Like if you know anything about disc profile, I'm a high D. So just give me the facts, give me the 3 things, and actually just tell me what you want to do, and then let's just go and make the decision. I'm learning that about how to communicate with everybody else and how to receive their messages and how to support them and things like that. And that's been quite a learning journey as well because we all hear completely different things and we all need different things as well. And I think once we stop talking and we start listening, that's when we can actually start really connecting with individuals as well.
Yeah. I think there's a part of that too, that at least for me, was understanding that you're not supposed to get everything from your wife. Like, your wife is not going to necessarily have to be your biggest cheerleader and all of the other things. Because there was a time in my life where I struggled with, hey, I'm not getting this emotion, whatever it might be. For me, it was the support cheerleader thing. For a long time, I struggled with it. And so I realized, hey, that's not her thing. I can't expect her. And there's a quote that says, if you spend your entire life judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you'll think the fish is an idiot. Something along those lines, right? But for a lot of us, we do the same thing to our spouse. We're like, hey, I'm expecting this behavior, but you're not giving it to me. And where does a lot of frustration come from? It comes from unmet needs from communicated wishes, or whatever the phrase there is. But a lot of times we don't say, hey, this is the thing I'm looking for. They don't know what they're supposed to do, and we get pissed off. And we somehow expect them to read our minds and be everything to everybody, and also to us. We forget to also give grace for the fact that, hey, maybe that person right now is struggling with their own thing. So if they're unable to give themselves everything that they need right now, how do you expect them to give it to you?
So I had someone say this to me. They're like, your husband can't just be all the things, and you're not going to be able to get everything that you need from your husband. And at first, I got really mad at them. Like, your husband's not going to be able to provide all those things. And I got really upset with them. And it wasn't until later I understood what they were saying. Like, and same thing with my husband too. Like he talks about businesses and buying businesses and all these things. Like, you need a circle of people to talk about this with. Like, I can't be always the only person that you talk about. And so I think having other people in your lives to serve certain things that you need, and having your social outlets, and having your time alone, and having your hobbies, and having your people you talk shop with, understanding what is it that you need from your spouse, what do you want from your spouse, and what are your desires, and what does your spouse want to do too to give to you, can help with building those relationships and not expecting. I feel like we all have such high expectations, not only of ourselves, but other people as well.
Yes. 100%.
So, since we only have a couple more minutes, when you think about like showing up for yourself, how and you doing that, how does that help your relationships, or how have you seen that help a relationship? Or is there any tips or anything you thought about you wanted to share when it comes to talking about the spouse and that union?
I think one of the best things I can share is in regard to communication, which communication is one of my favorite freaking words ever because I think so much could be solved with it. But one of the biggest things that people don't understand is the parts of communication. We think communication is, hey, I told you this. Okay, well, guess what? That's not all there is to it, right? Communication involves what is meant, what is said, what is heard, and what is understood. Okay, so it really is a whole lot of stuff going on. Okay, because you might mean to say something, but if they understand something totally different, guess what? There's a mismatch there. Communication did not happen. And we think we move through our lives and being like, well, I told you this, and then you didn't do the thing I expected you to do. Guess what? Now you're pissed off. Or, right, you run into the scenario where the other person might feel like you are judging them for not showing up in a certain. You might be giving them the space and grace. You might be doing the best possible thing you could possibly do and being like, hey, I recognize right now you're in a season where you need a little bit of space and grace to handle it yourself. I can't put pressure on you because I don't understand right now you got enough pressure on yourself. So I'm going to give you some space and grace, but they might receive it as you're being standoffish because you don't care about me. Okay, guess what? That's also still on you to handle. You got to recognize these things in your relationship and say, hey, I recognize where you're at. I love you. I support you. I'm here for you if you need me. No expectations. Do what you got to do. Okay, check in on them. Love them, appreciate them, make sure they feel seen and heard. Do all of the things we talked about. But if you don't communicate it well, again, to the point that it is heard and understood, and you confirm that part, okay? What I'm hearing you say is this part, right? And it's about understanding the fact, again, we go back to the very first thing I talked about. When you yourself are filled up, you're not needing that from them. You can show up in a relationship. You don't need them to fill that thing for you. You can show up for them.
So 100% agree with that. Fill up your own cup. And then obviously other people can contribute to it as well. The communication. So that is my biggest pain point, my biggest struggle, and one of the things I'm working on all the time. And to your point, I had to confirm, okay, so what you're saying is this, because my husband and I had a completely disconnect. That's not what I'm saying at all. And I'm like, okay, let's, and those conversations can be challenging. They can be super, super frustrating when you're receiving a completely different message. So do you have any tips for me on that?
Guardrails.
Okay.
When I say that is what I mean. And as someone, I'm assuming you'll understand this, when you're on the brink of divorce, okay, you understand you are married then at a different level. You sort of hit the guardrail and bounced off and be like, all right, cool, I understand I can go this far. We can go this far in a relationship. Okay, we're still here. Okay, when you establish the guardrails, it allows you a space to understand, hey, I can be a hot freaking mess. We'll still be good. Because I understand we've taken the word divorce off of the table. No matter what I do, when I show up with good intention and we have issues in our life, because again, no matter how good and whatever else you are, we're going to run into crap. It's just going to happen. When you understand, hey, let's take the word off the table. We're going to have messy days. Things are going to suck sometimes. But we're not just going to jump to extremes. We're going to love each other no matter what through the good days and the bad. If that's that thing that you agree to, is like for better or worse. Guess what? Worse happens. And it happens a lot. So like when you have those guardrails in your relationship and you understand, hey, I will give you space to be a hot mess. You do what you got to do. You come, we'll talk when you're ready. I think you understand, hey, yes, we can disagree about stuff, right? And that's what the guardrails comes into. Because a lot of times what the people disagree with, and this goes with your spouse or literally any other stranger you want to argue with on the internet, because Lord knows right now we are doing a whole lot of that. Y'all might agree about 99.9% of the things, but you find that 0.01% to argue about, and you're going to argue with it because it attaches to your identity. Okay, so let's just look at what are the things we agree on. And if we agree on the same goal, but we disagree on how to get there, cool, then you can have a conversation. Because that's what most of the stuff is. We agree that we should do X, Y, and Z. We both agree on the goal, where we want to go, but we might have different ways to get there. Okay, and we don't spend enough time to understand that part. We just argue and argue and argue, and we get so digging our heels into that argument part, we don't even hear each other.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the most important part about that relationship. Again, your spouse, stranger on the internet, doesn't matter. Understand, hey, are we arguing about the same thing? Are we both on the same side, but we're arguing about the dumbest thing because we just want to be the one who's right?
Right. Oh my goodness. Jim, I feel like I talk to you all the time. I'm going to totally download your podcast because I just love your philosophy. I like your mindset, I like what you're saying. And I want to learn more about what you have to offer as well. And I'm definitely going to be getting that book. I'm assuming it's available on Amazon.
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
We do usually like a gift exchange.
Okay.
I was thinking I've had so many amazing guests and a lot of them have books. And so I'm thinking about buying a couple of the books and just putting out in our break room.
That's awesome.
Not that I've brought a lot of books in, not a lot of them pick it up, but I don't know. Maybe it's since it's going to be a new year, they'll want to do that. So, well, I've definitely enjoyed our conversation, and I would love for you to leave our listeners and me, because I just value so much of what you're saying, with one piece of advice, or if there's anything that you could say to us that would encourage us to show up more for ourselves, what would it be?
I would go back to, something I've said a lot of times is find out who you are. And it might be really uncomfortable. You might not like the answer. Okay. There's going to be some times where you're going to be super frustrated with the fact that you are where you are. Okay. But no matter where you are, you've got to understand that you have the ability to be redeemed and do amazing freaking things. But it's going to take you showing up. It's going to take some uncomfortable conversations. It's going to take some really difficult situations where you feel like a total failure. You feel like giving up. Don't. Okay. You are worth so freaking much. And if you only hear one thing from this conversation, I want you to hear that. Okay. You need to keep showing up, because if you do and you consistently show up for yourself, you will accomplish literally anything you want. Okay. I'm living proof of that. You can do anything you want if you just keep showing up. So please do that for yourself.
Awesome, Jim. You're amazing. You're so amazing. And I love your story. And I love how you took this pain point in your life and completely changed your life. And now you're speaking the words. You've got a podcast, you've got a book. And there's so much greatness that can come out of a situation like that or pain. And I'm a firm believer of turning obstacles into opportunities. And you've done just that as well. So I'm just really grateful to have you on the show and for you to be here and sharing your words of wisdom, sharing your heart as well. I do really greatly appreciate it. I'm assuming a lot of our listeners have connected with you the way that I have as well. So if we wanted to connect with you in the future, tell us where to follow you, where to find you, and how to become part of your circle.
Absolutely. So thank you again for holding space for this conversation. It was amazing. And I appreciate what you are doing because it does make a difference. So thank you for that. Honor to you for all of that. I know it's not easy. So thank you. For me, I'm super easy to find, literally the only Jim Sabellico on earth. So if you Google me, you can go to jimsabellico.com, showupmore.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. You can find me. I'm not a hard guy to find. Please reach out. And I'm genuine when I say this. I would love to hear whatever it is that you got on your heart. Even if it's just, hey, you need someone to vent to, by all means, please do it. I believe firmly I've been given the gift of this day. Share it. So I'm going to share it with whoever needs it. And if that person is you, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you so much. And what's your favorite cake, by the way?
I would go with like a chocolate, maybe chocolate peanut.
Chocolate peanut butter?
Yeah.
I love chocolate peanut butter stuff. Like I'm always like with the ice cream, I'm like, ooh, chocolate peanut butter as well. I'm a big fan of Reese's. That's was my favorite candy like forever. And now I'm like, we had someone bring us a bunch of them. So I can have one of them. One of them. I'm trying to be consistent with my workout and my eating habits and all those goals, which is so hard. So, well, Jim, thanks so much for all your time today. It's super valuable. And I'm just so grateful I got to meet with you. So, wishing you a great day, and to all the listeners as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you can think of a couple people that may benefit from hearing what Jim had to say today, I would encourage you to send this podcast right now by texting it to a couple of your friends. Maybe you know 5 of them. And if you loved the conversation today, definitely give us a heart, upload a review. I'd greatly appreciate it. And wishing you a beautiful day. And once again, make sure to show up for yourself and get Jim's book, Show Up More, on Amazon. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to today's podcast. I want to inspire you to send this podcast to 5 of your friends you think would benefit.